The Whispering Diary, in the fog-shrouded town of Blackthorn, nestled deep in the English moors in the autumn of 1923, there stood a house on the edge of Eldergrove Lane. Number 17, a crumbling Georgian manor, was a relic of forgotten opulence, its ivy-choked walls and shattered windows whispering secrets to anyone who dared pass by. The townsfolk avoided it, their voices hushed when they spoke of the place, as if the very mention of number 17 could summon its restless spirits. They said the house was cursed, that its doors opened at midnight to no one, and that whispers soft, sibilant, and unending echoed from its darkened halls. I, Eleanor Grayson, a journalist from London with a penchant for unraveling mysteries, arrived in Blackthorn to investigate. The town's folklore intrigued me, not because I believed in ghosts, but because I suspected a more human scandal lay buried beneath the rumors. My editor at the Clarion had dismissed the assignment as a waste of ink, but I was determined to prove him wrong. Armed with a notebook, a lantern, and a stubborn streak, I rented a room at the town's only inn, the Black Hare, and set out to uncover the truth about number 17. The Arrival, P. Blackthorn, was a place time had forgotten. Its cobblestone streets wound through rows of squat grey houses, their chimneys belching smoke into the ever-present fog. The townsfolk were wary, their eyes darting nervously when I mentioned number 17. The innkeeper, a gaunt woman named Mrs. Harrow, warned me to steer clear. "That house don't like visitors," she said, her voice trembling as she polished a glass. "People go in, but they don't come out the same." I pressed her for details. She spoke of a family, the Ashfords, who had lived there a century ago. They were wealthy, reclusive, and rumored to practice strange rituals. One night, the entire household vanished, parents, children, servants, all gone without a trace. Since then, the house had stood empty, save for the whispers that haunted its halls and the doors that creaked open at midnight, as if inviting someone or something inside. My curiosity only deepened. I spent my first day in Blackthorn interviewing locals, but their stories were vague, laced with superstition. An old man at the pub, his face weathered like the moors, claimed to have heard voices from the house as a boy. "Not human voices," he muttered, clutching his pint. "Like the wind, but crueler. They know your name, miss. They call it." That night, I approached number 17. The house loomed against the moonless sky, its silhouette jagged and foreboding. The air grew colder as I neared, and a faint hum, like a distant conversation, buzzed in my ears. I dismissed it as the wind, though the trees around me stood unnaturally still. The front door, warped and blackened, was slightly ajar, as if it had been waiting for me. I pushed it open, the hinges screaming in protest. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of damp wood, and something sharper, something metallic, like blood. My lantern cast flickering shadows across the foyer, revealing peeling wallpaper and a grand staircase spiraling into darkness. Dust coated everything, yet there were no cobwebs, no signs of life. It was as if the house had been frozen in time, preserved for some unseen purpose. The diary, on a table in the parlor, I found it. A leather-bound diary. Its cover embossed with a symbol I couldn't place, a circle intersected by 3 jagged lines. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded but legible. The handwriting was elegant, almost feminine, but the words were chilling. The diary belonged to Margaret Ashford, the matriarch of the vanished family. Her entries began innocently enough, detailing the family's move to number 17 in 1820, their hopes for a new beginning. But as I read on, the tone shifted. October 12, 1820. The house speaks to me. At first, I thought it was the servants, whispering in the halls. But no, it's the walls themselves. They murmur at night, soft and sweet, like a lullaby. They know my fears, my desires. They promise things no mortal could. November 3rd, 1820. The doors open at midnight. I've seen it myself. The front door, the cellar door, even the attic, they swing wide, as if welcoming a guest. I've searched the house, but there's no one. Yet the whispers grow louder, more insistent. They call me by name. December 25th, 1820. I've found it, the source of the voices. Beneath the floorboards in the study, there's a chamber. No one else knows. The whispers led me there. They told me to dig. I found bones, human bones, and something else, a book, older than the house itself. Its pages are blank, but when I touch it, the whispers become screams. They tell me to write in it, to give it my secrets. I'm afraid, but I cannot stop. The entries grew erratic, the handwriting increasingly frantic. Margaret described a ritual, a pact she made with the voices to protect her family. She wrote of blood, of sacrifices, of a presence that lived in the house and fed on their fears. The final entry, dated January 1st, 1821, was a single sentence. "They are coming for us, and I have opened the door." I closed the diary, my hands trembling. The air in the room had grown colder, and the hum in my ears was no longer faint. It was a chorus of whispers, overlapping and unintelligible, yet unmistakably directed at me. "Eleanor," they seemed to say, though I couldn't be sure. I tucked the diary into my satchel and resolved to leave, but as I turned toward the door, it slammed shut. The lock clicked, though no one touched it. Panic surged through me. I tugged at the door, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers grew louder, circling me like vultures. I ran to the windows, but they were sealed, the glass unyielding. The house felt alive, its walls pulsing with a rhythm I could almost hear. I stumbled back to the parlor, my lantern flickering as if struggling to stay lit. Then I heard it creaked, slow and deliberate, from the floor above. Footsteps, heavy and uneven, descended the staircase. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The whispers stopped abruptly, replaced by a single, clear voice. "You shouldn't have come, Eleanor." The midnight door. I don't know how I survived that first night. The footsteps stopped at the bottom of the stairs, and the voice fell silent. The door, inexplicably, unlocked itself, and I fled into the night, my heart pounding. Back at the inn, I pored over the diary, searching for answers. Margaret's words haunted me, especially her mention of the chamber beneath the study. I knew I had to return, to find that chamber and uncover what the Ashfords had unleashed. The next night, I went back, armed with a crowbar and a revolver I'd borrowed from a skeptical but sympathetic local. The house was waiting for me, its door already open. The whispers greeted me like an old friend, their tone almost playful. I ignored them, focusing on the study. It was a small room, its walls lined with empty bookshelves. The floorboards were loose, just as Margaret had described. I pried them up, revealing a trapdoor, its edges carved with the same symbol as the diary's cover. The chamber below was a crypt, its walls slick with moisture and etched with incomprehensible runes. In the center stood a stone altar, stained dark with what I prayed was not blood. On the altar lay the book Margaret had mentioned, bound in black leather, its pages blank yet radiating an unnatural warmth. I reached for it, but the whispers surged, a cacophony of voices screaming in my mind. "Don't touch it, it's ours." I recoiled, my head throbbing. The air grew thick, oppressive, as if the room itself were closing in. Then I saw it, a shadow, humanoid but wrong, its limbs too long, its movements jerky. It stood in the corner, watching me. I raised the revolver, but my hands shook so violently I could barely aim. The shadow laughed, a sound like breaking glass, and vanished. I grabbed the book and ran, the whispers chasing me up the stairs. The house seemed to fight me, doors slamming shut, floorboards buckling beneath my feet. I made it to the front door just as the clock in the hall struck midnight. Every door in the house, every window, every cabinet flew open at once, a deafening cacophony of wood and glass. I stumbled into the street, clutching the book and the diary, and didn't stop running until I reached the inn. The pact. The book was not empty, as Margaret had claimed. Its pages were filled with writing, but not in any language I recognized. The symbols shifted as I looked at them, forming words, then dissolving into chaos. The whispers followed me, even in my room at the inn. They spoke of the Ashfords, of their pact with an entity they called the Keeper. The book, they said, was a contract, binding the family to the house and to the thing that lived within it. I couldn't sleep. The whispers were relentless, seeping into my dreams. I saw Margaret Ashford, her face pale and eyeless, standing at the foot of my bed. She held the book, its pages dripping with blood. "Write in it," she whispered. "Give it your secrets." I woke screaming, the diary clutched to my chest. Desperate for answers, I sought out the town's historian, an elderly man named Mr. Whitlock. He lived in a cluttered cottage filled with dusty tomes and faded maps. When I showed him the diary and described the book, his face paled. "You've brought it out," he whispered. "You've broken the seal." He told me the truth, or as much of it as he knew. The Ashfords had been occultists, dabbling in rituals to commune with forces beyond human understanding. They believed number 17 was built on a thin place, a boundary between worlds. The book was a conduit, a way to speak with the Keeper, an entity older than the Moors themselves. But the Keeper demanded payment, secrets, fears, lives. The Ashfords had paid the ultimate price, and now, by taking the book, I had drawn its attention. "You must return it," Whitlock urged, "before it claims you." took the twist. I refused to believe I was cursed. I was a rational woman, a journalist, not some superstitious villager. But the whispers grew stronger, and the book began to change me. My reflection in the mirror was wrong, my eyes too dark, my skin too pale. I heard doors opening at midnight, even in the inn. And the diary, its pages were no longer Margaret's, they were mine, filled with my handwriting, detailing my fears, my doubts, my secrets. I hadn't written a word. I returned to number 17 one final time, determined to end it. The house was different now, alive, its walls breathing, its shadows moving. The whispers guided me to the crypt, where the altar waited. The shadow was there, too, its form more solid, its face a grotesque parody of my own. Right, it said, holding out the book. I realized the truth then, the twist that turned my blood to ice. The keeper wasn't bound to the house, it was the house, and the house was me. Every secret I'd poured into my notebook, every fear I'd confided to the diary, had fed it. The Ashfords hadn't vanished. They'd become part of number 17, their souls woven into its walls, their voices trapped in its whispers. And now, it wanted me. I tried to run, but the house wouldn't let me. The doors sealed shut, the windows blackened, the shadow pressed closer, its breath cold against my neck. Right, it said again. I opened the book, my hands moving against my will. The pen scratched across the page, inscribing my name, my life, my essence. The whispers roared in triumph, and the world dissolved into darkness. Epilogue. The next morning, the townsfolk found number 17 silent once more. The front door was closed, the windows intact. No one spoke of the journalist from London who had vanished, just as they never spoke of the Ashfords. The diary and the book were gone, returned to their place beneath the study floor. But at midnight, the doors of number 17 open again. The whispers call out, soft and sweet, seeking a new name, a new soul. And somewhere, in the walls of that cursed house, Eleanor Grayson screams, her voice lost among the countless others, trapped forever in the keeper's embrace.